Okay, so it's another quick look here. So this is one of the boxings of the fine moulds F-15. This was in the F-15J from the testing wing. This kit is now what, maybe three years old, I suppose. So let's have a look inside. As you can see, I've already had it out. Already had a lot of it out to look at the parts. So we'll get those across there. Get that across there. So yeah, a fairly usual set of fine moulds instructions. So this is actually the F-15J Kai, which is the upgraded variant. So if you've seen this kit before, you'll know there's not much new going on with the actual kit itself. It is a variant with the Turkey featherless exhausts, which are the only exhausts included in the kit. Obviously the main focus of this release, if you like, is the air development and test wing markings, which is it's one of the most beautiful schemes the F-15 has ever worn, in my opinion. So it's overall white with red trim. So I think we can probably I don't normally do this, but let's remove these from the bag so that there's no glint from the no glint from it. So a particularly full and beautifully done decal sheet. It'd be interesting to see, certainly looking at pictures of this model, it looks like the decals fit very, very precisely. So your main thing is going to be painting this model white with a little bit of the grey for the underside of the nose cone, and the rest of it is all dealt with by decals. Not normally something I'm particularly fond of. I would rather mask and spray all this trim, but the issue with this is that all the trim includes the stencil detail and stuff where appropriate, so it would actually make it quite difficult to mask and spray unless you can source those markings from somewhere else, which wouldn't be the most difficult thing in the world, to be fair. But it does leave that rather up to you, or try and use the decals. Like I said, having looked at some of the built model, the decals look like they go on very, very nicely anyway. So you've got the single seat canopy. I'm not going to take this out of the bag so I don't damage it. It is a sort of 210 degree canopy arch, so you have got a centerline seam to get rid of, but generally very, very nicely moulded. So let's get this out of its bag and have a look. So as we've seen with this kit, it's fairly comprehensively broken down to take account of things, different variants and things like that. You've got a pair of ailerons here for raised or drooped ailerons, and other details. You have got a separate insert for the dorsal area behind the air brake here, which is this piece here, which will drop in there, so hopefully it fits nicely. And the only thing I can think of for this being separate is that they do have options to do a Strike Eagle at some point, because this area is different on the Strike Eagle with a kind of bigger stovepipe exhaust here and things like that. So they're just sort of making way for future variants if they decide to do them. Sides glue onto separate sides that glue onto the main fuselage there. You've got the dorsal area, you've got this area in front of the canopy there. Overall, I mean the actual recessed detail on this is absolutely fantastic. It's beautifully done. There is a little bit of flash creeping into some of the very, very fine edges, like the air intakes here. Just a very, very little bit of flash starting to creep in. It'll be the work of seconds to get rid of it, but just so that you're aware. This area here, this sprue here, you've got the wing undersides here, and you've got full intake trunking from the intakes going right back to the exhausts, with the detailing inside the exhausts, centerline pylon, things like that. There's vertical tails wise, there's two sets of vertical tails in this kit, and you've got H1 and H2. If I'm brutally honest, yeah, so the only real difference is these antennae on the rear of the fin here are slightly different on these two variants. One's obviously for the F-15J, one's for the F-15J Chi. So yeah, that kind of detail, which would generally be very easily missed, they've caught. They also do a separate set for the US Air Force and other variants, which have the ECM on one fin tip and the counterbalance weight on the other. So, but this being the Japanese one, both sets of fins have the antenna on top. So there's this sprue which is doubled up. In this instance, we've got the turkey featherless exhausts here, which are built up from multiple parts, which is quite requires a lot of care, although they have broken it down very sensibly. So you've got the actuating rods are moulded in threes to make it a little bit easier, certainly easier than the Hasegawa 72nd kit, where you have to sort of add each rod individually after assembling the nozzle. But you know, that goes with that sort of territory as it did back then. You've got a pair of different. You've got the launchers, wing launchers here, wing pylon, stabilator. They're not handed on the real aircraft, so you can double up on those sprues, and a pair of 600-gallon tanks. So you've got, let's say that sprue's doubled up. So you've got two of those sprues. F-15J specific interior parts here. This is marked as sprue K, so you've got an instrument panel without any detail for a decal, instrument panel with detail on it, very nicely done detail, which obviously you could paint, although I suspect as long as the decal matches, actually putting the decal over the detailed panel will look absolutely fantastic, as long as you get it to bed down correctly. So that's a very little sprue for the F-15J cockpit combing and other small parts. Finally, let's have a look. These are specifically the single seat parts. So here's another. So let's have a look. So you've got K and J. So you've got two separate. Obviously, you're going to have to refer to the instructions quite carefully to make sure you pick the right one of these two options for your combing. They are very similar, but obviously some of the detail on the instrument panels and stuff is different, so just be aware and cross-check with your instructions. These small antennas here, I think they possibly go under the intakes or somewhere. I'd have to check, but there's a very tiny little sprue there, marked sprue L. The F-15J Chi style nose cone, which has got the lightning conductors on it, which the original F-15 nose cone doesn't have. The lightning conductors are fairly heavily moulded, if I'm honest, so you might want to look at reducing them somewhat once they're in place. But it's at least the details there, and you'll be sanding it back rather than adding it, so there is that. A single piece air brake there, and this is largely the bits sprue-y here. This is the bits that are unique to the single seat Eagle, the area behind the canopy on the spine leading into the air brake, interior parts, the bathtub and stuff like that, which are specific to the single seater. So once again, you know, good stuff from Fine Moulds. I think, assuming the assumption I'm making is that all this is going to fit rather well. I know I've been quite critical of the Phantom kit. I have yet to build one of these Eagles, but the kits I've seen built of it, it's generally been looked at very good. So yeah, there's a little quick look through the one of the Fine Moulds F-15 releases, a new release with the testing wing markings.